Hello everyone and welcome to the next Metra monthly update video. This is the monthly update video for July.
Yep.
As always, I am the CEO and chairman, Derek Floyd, and this is...
I'm the president and secretary, Vladimir Stakov. So, obviously, as we forewarned you guys in the previous videos, we are in full construction mode. So the videos are getting later and later. We're recording this on August 12th, actually. So, yeah, apologies for that. But we're going to go on ahead and do the updates and kind of run through them and then continue on from there. So update number one, this is from the updates from June, where we hadn't finished things out yet. So first things first, really terrible news. So 234 Camellia Street is way more.
And to clarify, that's the deemed golf course house?
Yeah, that's the golf course house one. So this is the one where they had the cat pee and stuff like that, and the gentleman that needed out and we assumed over his mortgage or whatnot. That house is in worse condition than even our worst case scenario predictions, which is horribly unfortunate. So to give you guys some ideas, and I really wish we would have taken pictures, but we were just so mortified by it.
Well, that and we were getting monstrosely attacked by police.
So yeah, when you would walk into the house and you would walk into certain rooms, here's the problem with having a lot of animals in the house and why we charge excessive pet fees like we do. When you have a pet and they have fleas and you aren't taking care of them, those fleas will breed like around the floors and stuff like that. So there'll be like little flea eggs that you can't even see. That's why it's important to like constantly like vacuum, maintain, and like keep up with like making sure you're dealing with like dog hair, cat hair, anything like that, and constantly cleaning up after it. Otherwise fleas will keep breeding within that. Well, this house, when you would walk into it, your pant leg gets covered in fleas now because all the cats are gone. So the fleas are blood starved and they're looking for anything that they can latch onto to get some food. So they'll even latch onto humans where usually they won't. That was the first problem. Fleas everywhere.
There is
millions
of fleas.
We're talking like we had a pant legs that started getting black with fleas. When we would brush them all off, even after we spent like 10 minutes brushing them off, there was still fleas we missed. And so when we would get in the car, the fleas would follow us and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, it's a disaster. The first problem that we noticed is that the water line running to the fridge had gotten punctured by, I'm guessing, one of the cats, because it wasn't an issue before. So the water line had gotten punctured. It had been spraying water all in the kitchen. So the floors and the potential subfloors in the kitchen are now absolutely ruined from just sitting there with water the entire time.
Yeah, we don't know how long it was going. The last time we physically looked at the home was about a month and a half prior to closing. And then, well, you did visit them to go sign paperwork. So
yeah.
About 3 weeks prior to closing, about a month before closing. And then...
no, you're right, because I sent him all the paperwork online. I never revisited after we had I revisited one time 2 days after we had figured out a deal for him.
And so, we weren't there for a while. We expected it to obviously get a little worse because, once again, taking care of the animals. But the gentleman never mentioned anything about a water leak, so we don't know if it happened as he was leaving, or he just failed to mention it to us or didn't really pay attention to it and didn't know. And it wasn't really a problem yet because the thing with water leaks, right, obviously, if it's not something obvious or loud or you can physically see it, it just slowly builds up and eventually wears away the floors. Well, if it was a, 3-4 day event, okay, that might have been when he was just leaving, right? But if it was like a 1 or 2 week event, either he didn't know, plus there's so much stuff in the house, you might not have been able to physically see it. Or like he was saying, which he thinks has happened, is that because it was a very tiny little puncture hole in the water line going for the ice maker, and there's a very strong possibility that the cat probably just punctured it at some random point. One of the cats did, and the gentleman just wasn't aware of it or didn't notice it, and it was just building up and building up and building up and just leaking onto the floor. So that the time we got to it, because we didn't finally get out there until almost...
The last time I was physically out there personally was about 2 months.
Yeah, it was
so it was 2 months from the last time I was out there. We signed paperwork and whatnot to start the deal.
Yep.
All the time it took to get the deal in action and get things going. And then by the time we finally closed on it, obviously we had to give him time
so he had
to get all his stuff out and like move out.
He would have been in like 32 days because we gave him an extra couple. So he had basically a full month. Plus we didn't get out there the next day. We had other things that were going on. I think we got out there like 5 or 6 days later.
About 2.5 months went
Yeah.
by from the moment we last saw it, which it wasn't an issue, to the moment we did see it.
And so, anyways, point is, it's way, way more of an issue that, like he's saying, it's not just the floor that we already had to tear out because of all the pet damage. There's a strong, like 90% chance that we're going to tear out a very sizable portion of the subfloor as well, which is also a problem because if it's damaged underneath like the kitchen cabinets and whatnot, that means we're going to move the kitchen cabinets out or potentially tear them down depending on their potential water damage because it's all in the kitchen area. So now it's not just the floor, the hardwood on top or the vinyl on top, it's also the subfloor underneath and potentially the subfloor underneath the cabinet or even potentially the bottom of the cabinet. So it's substantially more damage.
Yeah, we saw that issue and we were already like, damn it, whatever. It is what it is. We started going through the rest of the house now that more stuff had been cleaned out. If you guys remember, I mentioned the cat piss room, the one that like literally hurt my eyes when I was in it. Dude, when you open the door to it now, it literally is scraping cat shit on the floor.
There is not a physical spot you can walk on without stepping on cat crap. There is not a
It's either smeared
speck
or whatever else. And so I was like, and the fleas in that room are the most aggressive and the worst.
And we were trying to step on like clothes and things to like work our way in there because there's a bathroom in there, and the bathroom is abysmal.
Yeah.
It is truly just destroyed. And then there was the other bathroom, I guess you could say like the guest bathroom, because that was, I guess, considered the master. And the guest bathroom is also just completely covered in just random stuff like clothes. There's potential water damage in there. Can't tell because there's too much crap in it. Literally cat crap. I mean, the whole house is just an absolute. One, it's a mess. Two, it's covered in crap, and then the rest of it you can't even tell because it's a disaster.
So our original plan.
Oh, also one last thing too is that I noticed it wasn't that cold in the house, but the AC was apparently blowing, and so I went underneath the house just to make sure there was no issues. And now there's apparently I think it was 2 or 3 air ducts that are just hanging. Now it looks like they all kind of connect in what looks like a T or like a weird 5-way pentagram looking thing. But the point is that now we got to fix that when that wasn't an issue beforehand. So now we have more issues that are slowly cropping up.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the area, the fact that the house is in a very heavily wooded area, that means that there's a ton of animals, bugs, and all this other stuff that are obviously going to be at risk to the house. And because of the extent of the damage, our initial plan was that we were hoping we could get in there, rip out the floors, and see how that would do with the smell. If that didn't fix it, we were then going to rip off the walls in bad areas and replace the walls and see how that did with the smell. It was going to be a slow, like, kind of testing phase.
Trial by error kind of thing.
However, if that would have worked out, we could have potentially actually got the house up and ready to be rentable, not fully fixed, but rentable within a month. However, with the extent of all the new damage, all the new issues, and all the new problems, we're estimating a potential 3-month rehab. To give you guys an idea, we're talking the same amount of time that we originally did 108, if not longer.
Potential a little more, yeah.
Yeah, and so that broke us because the thing is, we're going to honor our deal. We're going to pay that $800 a month mortgage, but we have nothing offsetting it now, and we have nothing that's producing us income off of it to help like balance it out or anything else like that. Now, here's where this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So if you guys remember, we paid $1,500 transfer fee, which again is ludicrous for anything, for the POA. We came out there a month later to go to the house.
Because remember, we had to give the guy time, so we physically never visited the house. So
we never went to the house.
Month and some change later, we'll say a month and a week later, we go out there to go view it for the first time.
They had not updated anything. In fact, they had no confirmation
Even who we were.
The house was closed on. They had no clue who we were. So we just sent this $1,500 transfer fee, and they had done nothing. They then tell us we have to reach out to the same lady that we had talked to before we signed paperwork on that house. And
like I don't know if she's like the head of the POA, but like the lady that kind of runs the whole thing,
Or potentially just deals with the
Yeah.
residents. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, we physically had to reach out to her, and that's kind of the problem as Vlad's getting to.
Yeah, because the thing is, she was on vacation or whatnot, and I'm just thinking to myself the whole time. I get it's not the gate guard's fault. You know, the gate guard's just doing their job. They're trying to validate. They're asking us for closing paperwork and all this other stuff. I'm kind of rolling my eyes, but I'm trying to be compliant. But the thing is, I paid $1,500 to have this already done. It's not my job to reach out. Otherwise, don't make me pay for something and then make me reach out and then make me do all these extra hoops when you've had a month to perform on it. They should have, if they needed information, they should have reached out to us.
And the worst part of it all is that this is the same person that was reached out to get all that information for our attorney for the closing. So all the same information we had to provide again for their records, I guess, in order for us to get like gate access and whatnot, is the exact same information that was already requested and given by the attorney at closing. And so nothing new was done. We just had to do it again for no reason.
Again, 30 days, a whole month, actually a little bit more.
Never reached out. They had our information on file, both our addresses, our phone numbers, our names and everything, contact information. Never. Nothing.
So that was already a huge red flag to me, because you can't charge $1,500 as a transfer fee, because I understand why they maybe would. It's still a bit absorbent, but whatever, is they have to give you key cards, gate cards, register vehicles and stuff like that. Make sure you have access in and out. Make sure that you obviously have access to like the amenities and stuff like that. I understand why there might be a transfer fee, but there better damn well be a level of customer service which just wasn't existent. This was red flag number one for me. That really bothered me, that we paid $1,500 and a month later, a little bit more than a month later, they still did not do anything to update us. And then once we finally did get a hold of them, days later, mind you, they sat there and they sent us to some online portal to fill out all the same information again. Dude, where's the service in that? And I don't want to hear any BS about like, oh, well, this lady's managing 200 different people. 200. That's not my problem. I paid $1,500 as a transfer fee. It's your problem to figure out how to get me transferred in correctly. Otherwise, don't charge me the $1,500. I show up to the gate, I provide the closing paperwork, and then we can start that process from there. Because you didn't charge me anything. Yeah, that's fine. I get it. I got to get registered with your guys' system. That's totally fine. No, that's not what happened. Well, anyway, so then the second red flag hit, and this was the breaking point. So once we got everything registered, we got everything set up, we had to go through a different lady for some reason to do all this. So once we got everything registered and set up, they had sent us a letter with the key cards, scan codes and stuff like that we have to put on our vehicles as like residents there, and so on and so forth. Okay, whatever, not a huge deal. There's a form in there, because when Derek had talked to this lady, he had told her like, yeah, we're not living there. We have to completely gut the insides of the house, redo everything inside, because it's just animal damage and there's a lot of damage as a whole. It's not habitable right now, which is fine. That's what we got into it. And the lady was like, well, you might have to get approval from that for the POA. We're like, it's all interior work. No, we don't. It's like, well, are you doing anything exterior? Like, no, we might pressure wash the house. And she was like, yeah, I'm just going to put this in there just in case. So it's like, okay. I pull out this letter because we sent it to my address. I pull out this letter and I look at it. It's a permit form on top of permits that we have to get, and they're going to require us to have licensed contractors to do it, and we have to supply them. We have to supply them more information than we have to supply the government for the permits. And here's the kicker. Oh my God. Any permits you submit with the POA, you have to pay a refundable, which I'm calling BS, a refundable $2,000 compliance fee. Where basically once your work is done, they're going to send out a member of the POA.
But wait, that refundable amount is only up to if your work that you're doing is up to $100,000, and it's refundable.
Yep. If you do more than $100,000,
more than 100,000,
it's just non-refundable.
it's non-refundable.
It's a $2,000 impact fee.
Yes. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. If it's valued at more than $100,000 worth of repairs, remodel, anything it doesn't matter what you're doing. If it's exterior and it's more than the value of 100,000, you must pay them $2,000.
So to give you guys an idea,
just to start.
Yeah, just to start. So to give you guys an idea, like roof repairs, obviously alone can get up to the $10,000 mark or whatever else. If we were doing roof repairs, there's a chance we would have to not only pay for the roofer, they're going to require us to go pull fucking roofing permits from the county, which absolutely not. And then they're going to require us to pay them $2,000 refundable to sit there and start the work on it. Dude, you are out of your mind if you think that I'm doing that. Absolutely not.
And the bigger problem, sorry to interrupt you, but the bigger problem with it is just now there's another barrier of entry to be able to do something that we should be able to do anyways. And here's kind of the problem. So there's no guarantee that just because because once again, government overrules everybody, but just because we get a county permit and we successfully did whatever job it was. We'll go back to the roofing example. So we get a roofing permit, we successfully complete the roofing job, county approves it. That doesn't mean the POA can still say no. That doesn't stop them from saying, yeah, you did it by county regulations, but not by ours. Yep. And so we can still pay for the roofing get done, pay for the roofing permit, pay the $2,000 compliance fee, and then still not be able to live in our home or face a bunch of fines because the POA is like, no, we don't approve of this. There's nothing stopping that whatsoever other than us going to court and going to a lawsuit.
Yeah, the only benefit is that a POA is easier to sue than obviously the county or government as a whole. But at the same time, why even deal with that headache? And it got ridiculous, by the way. Like, if you wanted a water line, so if you just own land there or whatnot, and you wanted a water line installed on your land, you had to pay a $3,000 non-refundable impact fee for a water tap. That literally means they just run a tap, put it there, and leave it alone. The water bill. Oh my God. We thought the mobile home park water bill was bad. The water bill there, because they're their own private water, so you're paying the POA for the water. The water bill is extortionary.
So, first off, because I had to look at this water bill like 5 times to make sure I wasn't nuts. Right out the gate, there is no less. Doesn't matter how much you use. Doesn't matter where it's being used. Doesn't matter.
You shut off the water.
Doesn't even matter if you live there. The minimum bill, no matter what, is $110. Whether you use water or not.
To give you guys an example, my personal house, the minimum bill is $15.
Yeah.
That's just because I have a tap there.
Yep.
I do have service and they are running water to it. I just chose not to use any of it. $15. That's reasonable. That's fine. You know, whatever. I get it.
So, 110 right out the gate is the minimum.
Minimum.
Okay.
That's the starting balance, baby.
Then it's $15 for the first 2,000. Then an additional $15 for the next 1,000. And then it's an additional $12 for every 1,000 beyond that point. So basically, if you use, for example, it's 110, right? And then you say you use, I don't know, 3,000 gallons of water, right? That would be 15 plus 15, that makes $30. On top of your 110, your bill for that month is $140. Okay, let's say you use 5,000. Well, that's the 15, and then 2 12s. So now instead of being 140, it's now 164.
Which, by the way, if I got a bill
for a single residence,
if I got a bill that was $160 on my water bill, I would be looking for a leak. And by the way, that's exactly what that tells me.
This is every single month. This isn't like every 2 months, every 3 months, and that's like kind of split up over the course of bills. No. This is a monthly bill that is minimum 110, and then on top of that, everything else. And then on top of all of that, because they run their own sewer system, you also have to have a grinder for all of your like waste, whether it's food, crap, whatever it is, has to go through a grinder, get ground up, and then go into their sewer system. If you don't have a compliant grinder, they charge you fines on it too. And our grinder's not working. I'm not paying $5,000 for a grinder, plus paying exorbitant freaking waste management fees.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that I find funny. Like, dude, they're trying to have it the best of all worlds. They want you to have a grinder, which is way better and more efficient for any sewer company to be able to process the sewer. I get it. But then they're also wanting to charge you an exorbitant amount for for using the sewer, which you can't have it both ways. You're either charging me exorbitant amount and you're dealing with my shit, literally, or I'm paying for the grinder and then I'm sitting there and obviously not getting charged anything for waste management. I'm just getting charged for the water because it's already being processed like partially for it to then go off and do what you need to do. No, dude, that was the red flags that we saw. They want everything, give nothing, and demand it all. And the constant money that they're reckoning. Oh yeah, this is the other thing. So about a POA, I want to explain this. An HOA, you always pay HOA dues, always. But they're pretty much set with maybe potential increases if the neighborhood votes on it for like better amenities. So like they might have like a community vote, like, hey, we'll install a tennis court and we can offset the cost if just everyone's willing to increase their HOA fees by $10 more a year. Like it factors out to this and we can sit there and we can afford this. Like, would you guys be interested in doing that? Yes or no, you vote and then go from there. And then your HOA fees increase, but you get a new amenity.
And the other thing is too, is HOAs are generally non-profit.
Yeah.
So they usually run at cost. So like you mentioned, whatever the cost is of maintaining all the current facilities, plus adding any new facilities for projects, like you said, like a tennis court or something, you get that cost, that's your dues, split amongst all the residents that are there.
So whatever the yearly fees of it, or whatever the yearly cost will be to have that tennis court up, is divided by 12 months. That's the monthly, and then that gets obviously divided out to each individual house on what they'd have to pay. Or if they do it by yearly, they just they take the yearly amount divided by every single resident that would have to pay. Makes perfect sense. A POA, however, is supposedly a partnership where you're actively involved in the partnership of the organization and you have voting rights and everything else like that. But the thing is, I'm just looking at these fees, I'm looking at these costs, I'm looking at these permit fees, I'm looking at this water bill, I'm looking at the transfer fees, I'm looking at the yearly fees.
Oh, this place is supposed to be running in a negative.
They supposedly are running in a negative. It's one or two things. That's either absolute teetotal bullshit, because here's the thing. If they're running in a positive, they must take the positive and split it amongst every single household.
It needs to be kicked back, yep.
So, in this case, instead of you paying an HOA POA fee, you would be getting money.
Or the next year would be reduced based on the difference.
Yeah, or it'd be reduced. So instead of you paying $2,000 like you did this year, next year you only have to pay $100 because, hey, we had way more of a profit. That $100's the only thing that we need to offset it. Impossible. If they are running at a negative, it either tells me one or two things. Either they're lying through their fucking teeth, which is a problem, a huge problem, because this is supposed to be meant of like community trust and built upon like everyone working together and everyone wanting to look out for the best interest of the neighborhood. But the ones at the top are just siphoning all the money, because salaries are considered a cost.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just siphoning all the money and then charging people to literally pay their salaries, which I want nothing to do with that corrupt system, because I have a feeling if we push hard enough and demanded them to open their books and look through their accounts or whatnot, they're in a positive. They're just lying about it. Or they have unnecessary costs that could easily be taken out and put them in a positive, such as like over excessive salaries and stuff like that. However, whatever. Or two, which I also don't want to deal with, they're incompetent with that amount of money. The people running the show, the people running the POA, the people managing this entire system, the people running the whole thing are incompetent and are throwing money down the drain and are then charging the residents for it because they're too dumb to manage the money. I want nothing to do with either one. Derek and I talked about it because our original plan, we wanted to Airbnb it. It was against POA terms. Okay. We decided to rent it because they said that as long as it's a 6-month or more lease, they're fine with it. But now, we both agreed we're selling it.
So we're going to do like a fix and flip. And the other reason why renting is going to be a bit of a pain in the butt is because, one, it's hard to factor around the fees, and the reason we say that is because we don't know if we're going to get charged any additional fees for anything that we're doing there. Two, we don't know what the future costs are going to be, and to kind of factor around a certain amount of income.
Or God forbid, we have to keep the water in our name, which I refuse to do.
That's the next thing I was going to say. So the electric is actually a separate electric company, which is done like a regular electric company, where when you get some type of tenant in there, they put it all in their name, they do a deposit, whatever the hell it is. Now you can have like a landlord thing where if they're not there, they keep it in your name and then temporarily switch it back over, things like that. That's a completely separate actual public utility company. The water being solely in their name, we're pretty confident the way their system is set up, because it's very, very bare bones, is pretty much just whoever owns the house, bill goes to them. Meaning that if we get a tenant in there, we're going to have the exact same problem as the mobile home park.
Except worse.
We have negligent tenants just blowing up the water because it's not their problem. We could charge them for the water, but the thing is what happens when they're not paying their rent? They're also not going to pay the water bill, which means that when we kick them out, water bill and rent go with them, and they're negligent and blowing up the water bill.
I could easily foresee $1,000 water bill just from that one unit, and that terrifies me.
Because if it leaks, dude, we're getting... I mean, we've had, for example, like 100,000 plus gallons monthly before, when we had the $3,000 leaks at the mobile home park. Well, that was effectively just because of simple things like some dude blasting the water out of pipe the whole freaking time for a month. So if the same thing would have happened here, and we're getting charged $6.50 per thousand, I think, yeah, $6.50 per thousand there with a $65 water tap. Here it's $110 base, then it's basically $12.
It's extortion.
So because it's double the price, the fee is so high, even though it's one house, is so high that the like you said, $1,000 water bill isn't even that much water in comparison to like an entire mobile home park. It's actually quite feasible to have $1,000 bill.
You damn well better believe
just from a bad leak
that I would go down. I would obviously not say we're providing the water. I'd say that we're billing them for it. You damn well better believe that I will go down there. I will shut off the water. I will put a lock on it, and they could come and sue me for self-help landlord, because I'm not eating the fees. The water bill is more than what they could sue me for self-help landlording.
It's actually true, yeah.
It's insane. It's actually insane. 2 months of running leaking water because they want to be assholes and let it run willy-nilly is more than I could get sued for self-help landlording.
What there's other things that are just a little confusing, because like, for example, the wastewater and water management, all that whole well system that they have set up is part of their yearly dues, but then you're also getting charged monthly for utilizing it if you live there. So I'm really confused on why they're double dipping. Like,
oh yeah, they double dip a lot.
There's a lot of double dipping in
because
this
like
system.
If we wanted, okay, we paid $1,500 transfer fee, but we were only allowed to get 2 key cards. If we wanted more key cards, we had to pay more.
And same thing for more decals, same thing for certain other things that
they only give you 2.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, those key cards aren't worth like $750 each.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, it gets really confusing how there's so many situations where there's supposed to be stuff set aside in your yearly dues, but then there's like nominal fees that are just like randomly attached to individual niche things that basically add up to the same price as the yearly dues. So you're basically just paying the yearly dues twice for certain amenities. And it doesn't make any sense. Not including the fact that obviously if you want other amenities, it's not included, you just get discounts. So like prime example, that'd be like the marina, the golf course, the RV park they're trying to sell, and then some other random stuff. So it's really odd that either, like he said, they're either totally screwing the books and lying, or they are so insanely incompetent that it is terrifying. And both of them are just not going to work. So
I'm not dealing with it.
So we'd rather just, because the economy is still stupid with people buying overly priced houses still, I don't know why, we're just going to, because of the way the market is right now, at least specifically in this particular area, we're like lower end luxury. So anybody that's downsizing will pick this up. We're just going to remodel it and flip it and sell it and just get into something else, because we already see this being problematic. Now, don't get me wrong, if we do get a great, we're going to list it for both options. We always do this. We're going to list it for a rental, and we're also going to list it for sale. But if we do get a pretty decent rental rate, like way more than we expect,
Like
So-
my best case scenario for this house, best was 1,800.
Yeah.
So when we say we're listing it up for rental, usually I would list it up for like my medium case and let people potentially negotiate. Now we're putting up for sale and we're listing it for the absolute best case scenario rental amount. If we get that, great.
Yeah. So if we get like
I'll probably still be
No-
trying to sell it with the tenant in it.
no negotiations down. If we get like best case scenario, we'll probably keep it for a while just to see and play it by ear and see how it works. Or like you said, even with a tenant in there, we'll probably sell it because if it becomes a problem or if we see kind of like over the horizon there's gonna be issues down the road, we're just gonna get rid of it because we can take our money back out of it and what profit we make and go dump it into literally anything else that we have full control over and no headaches and still make just as much, if not more money.
Yeah, Golf Course House has been a very, I think, disappointing
Yeah, I would say disappointing
overall between the POA, the absorbent fees, the insane utility costs, the excess damage, the fact that we now have to do a full rehab. And again, I personally really want to do the rehab in the fall/winter time, just so I don't have to deal with all the bugs, all the excess creatures, the potential for like animals to like sneak back in and stuff like that. Like I don't want to deal with any of it. So I'd rather wait till everything's dead before we start it, which obviously delays us a little bit, but exactly like Derek's saying, it's not a huge deal because this is one of those that's in a nice enough neighborhood that if we fix and flip it, it will sell.
Oh, there's a market.
There's no, because even in a full-blown recession, people that are downsizing, people that basically have a silver spoon and like living in these bougie rich neighborhoods or whatnot with all these amenities and stuff like that, they'll downsize into something like this, meaning we still have a market.
Yeah.
Like there's only 100,000 or so left due on it right now with the current mortgage amount.
Not
So-
even that, it's like 95 or less, 90 something.
Even if we spend 10 grand on the remodel, that would mean that if we sold it for like 170 or something like that, we could sit there, we could easily walk away with about, we'll go real aggressive with fees and problems. We'll say 50. We can walk away with about 50,000 pure profit. And I'd rather take that 50,000 to never deal with this again and go somewhere else. Because obviously it was a good learning experience. Glad I want nothing to do with it. So yeah, that's pretty much the full update on Camellia Street, aka Golf Course House. Now let's kind of shotgun blast through a couple of these. So we did do the eviction on 134. The unit was a complete and utter disaster. Like it was nasty as hell. There was mold everywhere. Not black mold. There was a little bit of that, but we're talking actual like wet mold and things like that.
Green mold because there was so much food particle in there.
Yeah, like you would pick up a couch. Like Derek and I did this. We picked up the main couch after we got all the trash out from underneath it. Like they were using the couch as a trash can, so they were just shoving trash in between the cushions like retards. And so Derek and I literally had to pick up the couch, move it out and stuff like that. When we grabbed it and you like smack your hand on it, the spores literally would cake up. They were on my pants and stuff like that when we were moving. It was a super, super nasty job. Like we went through, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 17 commercial, like big
55-gallon trash.
55-gallon trash bags, just trash, like actual regular household trash, not construction
So,
stuff, trash.
Remember, this is like a 800 square foot home, maybe even a little smaller, and it went through, like, we're talking, there was so much, it was a mixture of hoarder and trash. They had a bunch of crap they shouldn't have had. Like, they had just too much of it. Then they just had trash everywhere, literally, like food boxes or just like cigarette boxes everywhere, or just like stuff. And it took, because you know the way the Anderson County evictions work, we had to have 4 people out there. So it took all 4 of us. Now, to clarify, we didn't actually have to do it that day. Once the cop came out there and he saw the door was open,
Dude,
and
even the cop literally said the cop was awesome
the
for
cop
this.
was hilarious.
Whoever this police officer was, thank you for your service, and for the love of God, please, I hope we get this guy again, because he pulled up about 15 minutes before any of us even were supposed to be there. He looked inside. He said he took one step inside, walked right back out as soon as we arrived, and he was like, "Do you have a 4th coming?" We were like, "We do. He's just not here yet." He's like, "Checkbox. Yep, they have 4 people." He's like, "Well, based on my expert determinational opinion, It's all trash. I just need to watch you guys secure the property and I'm out of here. I was like, thank you.
Yep.
It is all trash. Because I feel like other cops would tell us to take this moldy, nasty couch,
and
put it outside,
on plastic,
carpet, because you don't want it to get rained on, and take all their trash and put it outside for them to keep their trash. And this guy was like, no, this is all trash. Throw it all away. I just need to make sure you guys secure
it. And the thing is, you can tell it was trash because it was just so nasty. I mean, nasty.
You had a mattress in there that had the green mold everywhere and black mold all down the center.
No. I gotta like really go in depth on that freaking mattress. Okay, so the mattress is in the living room, right? Their bedrooms are so full.
This is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Yeah, their bedrooms are so full of crap that they slept in the living room, and the mattress was so caked in piss that it was
human, not animal.
Yeah, it was soaking wet, and when we moved it, the box spring was soaking wet in piss. That means that the piss was caked into the top box spring. I mean the mattress. I mean, and it was just seeping its way through, just pee, dribbling onto the wood, onto the actual box spring.
Hey man, that's important.
And the worst part is the millisecond we moved it, the waft of pee was so intense for like a solid hour. We had all what we could open, the windows, the doors, everything we could open was not working. That house smelled like rancid, homeless man pee.
So
for hours. And it took 4 of us about 4.5 hours. And we were literally having to use shovels to shovel the trash into bags to speed up the process because there was just so much crap literally everywhere.
So to try to combat the smell, after we got one room cleared out, I started ripping up carpets and stuff like that. I wanted it down to the subfloor. And so I just started ripping everything out to try to get back down to the subfloor and whatnot. And truthfully, the house is still really disgusting. It's like the best way I can put it. It's still really disgusting, but we have a couple of ideas of how to cheaply fix it because this isn't going to be the ones we're going to keep. We just need to produce us income for the time being. So we need to look nice. We need to be rentable. We need to do it cheap. Now, to kind of move on from that, I'm trying to make sure I'm covering 13 Hammet update. We're still doing updates for June. So 13 Hammet update. So we did do the eviction. We got them out. Sure enough, of course, there was drug paraphernalia and stuff like that. The guy was an animal. He sat there and was doing domestic violence and domestic abuse against a woman, slamming her into walls or whatnot. I don't care for either one of them because I'm very confident she's a druggie, he's a drug dealer, and I don't care. It was there was bullet holes in our window and spent casings in our window. I don't even. There was shotgun shell casings.
Dude, there was so
that
many,
weren't there near the front porch area.
We had our cop friend was the one that was with us to help eviction on that one because we needed 3 in Lawrence County, and he was just walking the premises, just kind of looking at all the debris and stuff, and found 7 different type of rounds. I'm trying to think how to explain it.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't familiar with firearms, basically there's 2 things. So you have the casing, which is where the gunpowder and stuff like that is, and then you have the actual point, which is the bullet or whatnot. So the bullet is the part that flies. The casing does not. The casing stays. It usually gets ejected out of the firearm in some way, shape, or form. We're talking mini spent casings everywhere,
and a lot of rounds.
And the concerning part is, remember, there is a school right there in literal plain view that you can see.
I don't know, maybe 20 feet away is a school, where the fence for the school starts. It's not far. It is genuinely freaking close. And there is, and that's even the weirder thing. So where all the spent casings were, so there was a lot of boxes around, well, not boxes, it was just a bunch of random rounds.
Free floating rounds,
just littered everywhere, in the bathroom, even weird places. There was some in the kitchen sink, why are there rounds in the kitchen sink? But anyway, so where the casings were concerning, because the friend brought this up, and that they were all at the back door which is the closest and facing the school, which is the weirder thing. So if you're gonna shoot the gun, just shot out the front door away from the school, because the only thing you would have hit or in the general vicinity is another trailer. But the back door had another home there, but then the whole school's over there. So,
dude, whoever this person was, they're an animal. I hope they get in jail. We did find drug. We actually found drugs.
this
while we
time
were sitting there.
legitimately found
We
drugs.
found legitimate drugs that they had forgotten and left behind, and like we again found, like I found over like 100 rounds of 5.56 ammo that was just free floating everywhere that I put all together and stuff like that. It's an animal. They need to be locked up. It's that simple. Unfortunately, this is one of those very, very, very rare landlord situations where you get somebody, their backgrounds are 100% clean. Their credit actually is not that bad. They don't have a lot of collections or anything else like that. They have no prior evictions, nothing. It is like when you're, and like
they had like no red flags.
They had like easy like proof of payment and stuff like that.
Bank statements to be able to prove their income.
This is a first for me where someone was completely above board and it was the wrong choice, because we had those other people that were also interested in it, and we reached back out to them and we blatantly told them, hey, the house is in a bit of disrepair. It's still functionally fine. It's just in disrepair. Would you be interested in taking it at a lower rental rate? They ended up having a pet, so we ended up bumping them up a bit on the rental rate, and we're doing them bi-weekly. It was the other people that we were considering for the same property. They went, they looked at it, they said sure. They agreed to clean out all the rest of the stuff that was obviously left outside or whatnot, because these people weren't going to come pick it up. So they threw all that off. They took it all to a dump. They did a good job cleaning it. And we've actually gotten 2 payments off of them. So we got the first weekly payment up front, and we got the second weekly payment just recently. So far, these guys are shaping up to be like potentially good tenants.
And we were just down there a couple days ago because we've been slowly doing the cosmetic repairs and fixing some things, because like there was punch holes and stuff in like the bathroom doors, so to replace those. So while we were down there, obviously the first thing we wanted to do is make sure we avoid another problem tenant. And so they've been there now for a little over 2 weeks, couple days past 2 weeks, and we go down there, and sure enough, the house
it's immaculate.
It's in great condition. Even the dog, whenever it did go to the bathroom here and there, because it's a puppy, it makes accidents, they immediately clean it up. And we're not talking about just like some paper towels and calling it a day.
No, they got like the actual spray. They're wiping it down and stuff like that. The only slightly annoying thing, but you know, whatever, to each their own. It does annoy me a bit that whenever the dog will poop inside, they don't pick it up with toilet paper and flush it. They pick it up with a paper towel and throw it away. So it's like a permeating like dog poop smell. But whatever, to each their own. As long as it's not damaging my stuff, I don't care. It's a little bit of odor. It's not the end of the world, so I wasn't going to get on to them for that. That's their choice if they want to live like that. I personally can't do that. I have 2 huskies. When they shit in the house, it's huge. I grab that and I throw it in the toilet. I refuse to leave that in the house. I'll throw it outside. I don't want it anywhere in it. It has to be gone. So yeah, no, overall they seem like they're very good. They're very good communication. Like
that's the other thing too, man. Okay, so obviously as he mentioned, we've gotten 2 payments on them because they're on a bi-weekly system with us. Well, they were running a little bit behind on their paycheck because they do chime, and so they get that 2-day early thing. Well, their paycheck didn't post for like an extra day and a half later than when they were originally expecting it. And they were very diligent about explaining to us what was going on, when it should theoretically come in, when it did come in, as it was processing, when it completed, and they immediately made the payment. Then they verified that we received the payment immediately after. Oh yeah, they have been wonderful. We had to go down there obviously to do the repairs. They were like, hey, this is what times will be available if you need us to be there. They let us in the door whenever we had to come out the second day and we forgot to bring the key. And they were there available for the phone. Oh, they have been wonderful in terms of communication. Absolutely one of the best tenants.
Yeah, so hopefully this will pan out. Hopefully this will be a good like tenant-landlord relationship. Hopefully they keep maintaining the property, because Hammet, again, lipstick on a pig. We need that one to be well cared for. It's not just about getting a paying tenant in there. It's about getting a paying tenant that's not going to be destructive. And that's a very hard thing to do, because that's what we needed to do. Hammet has to have a tenant in there that is not going to be destructive. And the fact that on bad luck of the draw, our very first tenant was extraordinarily destructive, has already set us back on recuperating our costs, profit projections already. Not the end of the world, but it is annoying because again, we only have, once again, 5 years of a guaranteed set rate and everything else like that for that entire property. We must make a profit within that 5 years. And while we were originally projecting about 2 years is what our original projections were, based off the cost that we had to spend to obviously buy it and get into it. About 2 years.
I think it was 2 years. Cause
it was better than 18 Eagles View.
It's a $600-ish profit a month.
Yeah.
Take at the $900
So,
rate we were doing.
This has already set us back to about, because once we do,
it was $1,000 rate, so it was $700 in profit, and we paid $16,500. We got $1,000 up front. I don't know. I don't feel like doing the math right now. But
so yeah, basically our thing is that we have to sit there and we have to hit that mark. We must, but now we have to replace windows, which are very expensive. We have to sit there and we have to obviously like fix the walls and whatnot. Which
it has to be about a 2-year return because 7 times 10 is 7,000, and then times that by 2 for 20, that's already 14.
Yep.
We pay 16,500, so give or take about 2 years.
So yeah, and that's the thing. It's like that 2-year return was assuming perfect scenario, no breaks, no maintenance needed, just taxes, the lot rent, or whatever else, and the tenants are always paying on time. Very unrealistic numbers to factor around. But now, because of this situation, I'd probably say we're safely now set back to 2.5 years before we're sitting there, we're making full profit on it, and so on and so forth. And we gotta like we again, that means we only have 2.5 left before we're out on our lease, and hopefully it made it.
I wouldn't say 2.5 years because that extra 6 months, you're talking $700 difference for 6 months. We didn't spend that much. That's $3,000.
Well, I'm also thinking about like tenants not paying, defaults, the time it takes us to have the turnaround, record, things like that. Just factoring in some additional problems.
I guess, but yeah, that's a lot of money.
It is, yeah. But this is more of a worst case scenario. But either way, the point still stands. We have to sit there and we have to make it producing. It has to work within that 5-year span. And it's not just like we break even in that 5-year span. No, we must make a profit, a pretty substantial one, at least a year's worth of money off of that unit and profit for it to really be worth it in the event that we do have to move it or whatever else. Otherwise, it starts delaying us further and further. But hopefully these guys are good. Hopefully things work out on it and we can kind of continue on from there. I have high hopes so far, and hopefully it continues on. I think that finally wraps up all of the updates. Now we're going to go into July. Finally. Only 40 minutes in, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to speed run some of this. There's only a couple of things that are actually worth talking about. Okay, so as of this moment, 136 and 134 are both vacant. Obviously because of the eviction and because of the issues we've been having with
actually one
getting
other
electric
minor
on.
update for 134 is that we also won the lawsuit because they didn't show.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, we won the lawsuit against them for the back due rental amount. They never responded.
Not
to
that
the
we'll ever
letter.
get it, but we did win that too. So that's the last update we're doing.
So I'll follow up on that still, because you never know. They might come into some money, win the lottery, tax return, whatever. There might be some way to siphon some of that money back out, but we'll see. Okay, so yeah, 136 and 134 are both vacant right now, obviously, because at the time we haven't got the power back on. The units are a mess. They're not in a rentable state. Derek and I are very, very, very hell-bent right now on trying to figure out a way to find a good owner finance tenant for those units. And that is very difficult because it's counterculture to everything we've done so far. Because usually we operate on the if you can pay, you can stay method. But we are so sick and tired of problems at that park. It's so sick and tired of issues and dealing with these kinds of like people and these kinds of tenants that we're trying to figure out a way to like do anything else to find like a good owner finance tenant if we decide to go that route, or just finish it out ourselves and just rent it out like normal.
The problem is we got so many other little projects going on. We don't really have enough time to focus on remodeling everything, at least not right now. And so we're in the mode of, well, we can just get these owner finance, get them sold. We were planning on getting rid of them down the road anyways. If we go ahead and owner finance it and give them time to go ahead and produce this money now, we can use that money plus the fact that we're not spending time on it to go focus on other things, like, for example, the golf course house, which is going to take 2 more months of remodeling than we didn't expect. So that's what we're talking about, just basically prioritizing things that matter more.
So we got delayed very heavily as well on the tiny house. So what we're looking to do is potentially move it over somewhere else, and then kind of like finish it out from there. I also put mine up for sale because it's not like we're like negative, but we are getting very close to margins right now. And so we kind of got to see where we can get income from what to help funnel us through like the rest of like our material costs, rehab costs, or whatever else, and get things producing us income. So we basically have both of them up for sale. We're going to play around and see what happens and what we're going from there. Otherwise, we're thinking about moving it to a different location that we believe might actually be more profitable for us to have it in that location versus obviously have it in my yard like we have it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I might just convert. And the other thing is too, I'm thinking about converting mine into just like an office space, just so I can have more peace and quiet as well. So we're kind of playing around with a couple different ideas on that. So we have gotten a report today as well, and this goes further with my point of finding good owner finance tenants. We got a report today that someone in the park may or may not be cooking methamphetamine and like might obviously be distributing of some kind. We're not entirely sure who it is. We got to follow up on that, because if we get any inkling on who or what is doing that, scorched earth. They are absolutely gone, because we just spent all this time cleaning all this out. The last thing we need is bringing that back in, because I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter how well of a maintained park you have, you bring in methamphetamine, it's only a matter of time. It is truly a disease that will rot away everything, because it's the people that come with it. The people that'll sit there and start squatting, they don't care, they leave trash, they start committing crimes, they degrade the entire park, they add in more lost value. Like, people that are addicts on this stuff truly are like, it's gonna sound harsh, but they really are the cockroaches of society. They take everything and give nothing beneficial in return. You have to stamp it out immediately. So again, this is just a report. We got to follow up on it and try to figure it out ourselves, and then go from there. Now we got one big update still, but I'm going to kind of run through another thing. So 104 has been a huge issue for us lately, a massive issue. So it started off where we were trying to figure out where the water leak was with our water lines, right? Because we were getting charged an exorbitant amount. We had a $3,000 bill. We had a $2,000 bill. We could not figure out what the issue was. We had dug up a pipe that was leading to the rest of the park. Because remember, 104 is on its own separate line, and then 108 and the rest are all on one major line. So we had dug up this pipe that we thought was wet because we saw like a water puddle near it, and it wasn't leaking. There was no indication of leaks. We weren't entirely sure, but we thought we might still dig up more of it and try to follow that pipe or whatnot using like one of those sonar machines. And that didn't work out well.
We also kept it exposed because we didn't know if just at that moment in time we couldn't see a leak. And so we were going to give it a few days.
See if it would build up a puddle or whatnot. Because even if it rains, like if it's a leak, the puddle keeps getting higher and higher versus if it's just rain, the puddle's there, but then it gets lower and lower if there's no leak. And one of the people that the caretaker invited over sat there and ran over the line, which I don't understand how. It's a big ass hole. It literally had a traffic cone right there in the hole for warning, like, hey, veer around this, get away from it.
Not really in a place where you would park a car.
Yeah, it's actually more inconvenient to park your car in that spot than it would be in the rest of the open field that you have available to the left of it.
It's like if you had a driveway and this exposed pipe was like in the middle of your front yard, and they, instead of parking in the driveway, somehow parked in the middle of your front yard.
Yeah.
But then like was beyond it because they backed in and hit it. That's what's even more confusing. Like they had to go around it and then somehow back into it. It's mind-boggling how the hell they hit this thing and busted it. But they did.
And so now we're sitting there and we had to go out there because we sent our maintenance guy out there because they said that they were going to fix it. We were like, you have till this time. They didn't fix it. Then we sent our maintenance guy out there. He almost fixed it, but again, he's learning. He made a huge mistake. When you're buying plumbing parts late at night when the stores are about to close, because a lot of plumbing issues, obviously, usually you're dealing with them at night because that's when people come home and they figure out that there's a problem. You always buy an over excess of what you need. So especially if you had a chance to look at the problem, all you needed for this job was a 1 1/4 pipe and 2 1 1/4 couplings. He bought plenty of extra pipe, but he only bought 2 couplings when he should have probably bought 6, is what I would have done in that situation. Is you can always return them if you don't use them, but you can't go back to the store after you leave because it's going to be closed. So he almost fixed it. He wasn't able to get it, so then Derek and I had to come out there the next day.
He cut the pipe a tiny bit short so that there was a small pinhole leak.
Yep. And so Derek and I went out there. We went over it with him. I actually messed it up because I was the one doing it. I messed it up the first time. Then we got it right the second time and got it all in. And it was situated or whatnot. So that was good. We got that handled. So whatever. Not the end of the world. Just incredibly dumb and very curious, I guess. Because just like Derek's saying, why or how did you run it over unless you were not in your right state of mind?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, we legitimately made sure it was well aware that it was there. We obviously let them know it was there. And then also, once again, it is incredibly out of the way that it should not have ever been an issue to begin with and somehow became an issue. And it's mind-blowing how the hell they did this.
So then, a couple days later, because Derek and I are out at the park constantly working, trying to like clean things up, like take care of stuff or whatnot, we notice a tent in the backyard of it. And we notice a person living in the tent.
Well, I don't know about living in the tent necessarily, but what I did notice is one day we were coming in to go do something at the park in the lower section with 134 and 136. And there was just some random ass woman with a broken leg because she had a boot on and was just walking around picking up trash and putting it down in a different spot, not really cleaning it up, just moving it. And I'm like, who the hell is that? We're pretty aware of who lives at the park and then random family members that visit at time to time. There was no car out there, so they weren't visiting. And they were literally just a person I've never seen before. Ever. And we had been out there routinely for, I would say, at least 4 days out of the week for about 3 weeks consistently and never seen them before. And then now all of a sudden they're there and we're like, who the hell is this? And then, of course, like he mentions, there's a tent in the backyard, and we're like, this is really suspicious.
Yeah,
and
this ain't gonna fly.
Someone reached out to them, and they were like, yeah, this is my cousin. Their house burnt down. They needed a place to stay.
I don't care.
I'm like, first off, if they need a place to stay, you're gonna put somebody who just lost their house and put them in a tent and put them outside. You're gonna put them in like your living room or something for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I don't care. You didn't give me any forewarning, and I just assumed it was fine. And then you're just going to put people out there that are just going to be living on the property. No bueno.
With all the issues we already have with county, the last thing I need is them seeing a bunch of tents cropping up. Because here's the thing. It might sound cruel. The story is fake.
100%.
I am literally almost willing to bet the company the story is fake.
I 100% agree.
Because just like Derek said, if my cousin or family member had their house burnt down and they need a place to stay, I would not put them in a tent in my backyard. I would either put them in a camper, in that office that I have back there, in my house, something stable for them to temporarily get back on their feet comfortably while they're going through it. And it is going to be an inconvenience to me. Not a tent in my backyard. That doesn't make any sense. So basically, the way this story wraps up, it still hasn't. We gave them X amount of time to take it down. We told them that person had to be gone. We better never see them again. We come back out there. They're still there. We then start threatening evictions and...
No, the people were gone, but the tent was
still there. Oh, yeah, the tent was still there, which what that tells me is that more than likely, they're just not there during the day and then come huddle around during the night. Because, come on, dude, I've played this game before. Tent is still there. We tell them to take it down. They give some excuse about like, oh, well, I don't want to take it down just yet because like it was a convenient excuse because it just rained and like I don't want it to get moldy or whatnot. It needs to dry off. Fine, go ahead. They had the whole weekend for it to dry off and put it away. It was a completely dry weekend.
Very dry week. It was very hot.
Yeah, it was extremely hot.
Dry weekend.
And they didn't put it away. Then on Monday, we're just like, get this thing, like, we're literally like, why is this still up? Get this thing down now. And luckily it rained that same Monday, so we gave them till Tuesday. I'm very confident. Oh, sorry, till Wednesday, so it could dry off again and then take it down, even though they should have done it over the weekend.
Supposedly it's taken down. We haven't really been able to verify it yet because we haven't been out there, but supposedly it's down.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it too.
And so I just, like, that's been an absolute disaster. The thing is that the dogs, remember, this is the dog breeder. We have caught these dogs roaming around without a leash so many times already. And the thing is, we approved the dogs, and now there's a chicken coop with chickens free roaming and running around. Luckily, chickens aren't that big of a deal. Like, I mean, your problem if they get run over or hit or like killed or whatnot because they don't have them properly fits in. It's just a coop and a bunch of chickens running around. Whatever. That's your issue. That's your problem. However, the thing is that, yeah, man, it's just been one problem after another, and it's really wearing on us.
It's only been, we're coming up on the third month now that the person's even been there, the caretaker lady, and all these problems effectively started once she arrived. Because the other two, yeah, now while they're annoying as hell and they're kind of old and delusional and losing it, they were never causing exterior problems.
There wasn't trash outside. They weren't like dumping stuff. They had a little bit of stuff in like the backyard or whatnot. It was a little trashy, but it wasn't like the end of the world.
Relatively maintained.
Yeah.
Or contained, I should say. Now
when you would drive by it, it would just look like a bad looking exterior, like siding and stuff like that. Mobile home. Yeah. That's all it looked like. It just looked like a bad exterior mobile home. And then you would drive by, obviously 108, and then go from there. Now
trashy.
It's bad and trashy, and it is getting on mine and Derek's last nerves.
Yeah. So, and especially because we have been doing a massive, extensive cleanup of the park at the lower end, where we have just been picking up everything we can find and putting it in a massive trash pile.
That massive trash pile. This dude that occasionally comes there.
Some random dude we've never heard of.
We have no clue who this dude is. This dude from 104 that, again, understand in our agreement, our lease is between the two tenants that were currently there, and then we added this lady as a supplementary caretaker.
Basically like a sublease of these two.
It's not supposed to be anybody else in there except technically those three.
Yeah.
And this dude, we think it's the same guy because we've seen this one car a couple of times or whatnot. He was scavenging through our trash pile. Again, they're at the front, the tippy top of the park.
First thing
dude had to come all the way down to the back
and
of the park.
Stuff that he scavenged was literally at the house. So you can't just be like, oh, well, I didn't go through the trash. No, you literally did because we put it there.
So they took stuff out of our trash pile and brought it up there. So this contained trash pile that we're going to pay a dump crew to literally come in, take all of it, get it the hell out of here, is now being brought back up to the front of the park by this idiot who's not even supposed to be there. Yep. If they are spending the night and staying there, they're allowed to have guests, of course, but not to stay the night. Absolutely not.
The problem is that it's fine if you ever like somebody hanging out for like a day or two, or like family coming in for like a weekend or something. The problem is we've been routinely seeing this particular vehicle and this particular gentleman that it is well beyond a guest.
It's not like I go over to like a girlfriend's house and like pick her up for dinner, then like we go out, we come back, we like I spend the night or whatnot, and then I head out. Like, again, I've been with plenty of like women who were renting and whatnot. I never once met or saw the landlord ever because I didn't live there. Mm-hmm. The fact that we have seen this person routinely is telling me a different story. And that's what we don't like because, again, the more stuff like this, the more suspicious it gets. At some point, our suspicion goes from just suspicion to pretty hard confirmations. We're going to take action because we're going to protect our assets, because the last thing we need is another run down to hell mobile home that's going to require a full remodel to get it back up and running. So we'd rather take aggressive action instead of doing reaction. And so we're watching this problem unfold. It's a concerning problem. not really having a good time with this at all. So this is probably either going to get resolved one or two ways. Either all of a sudden everything's going to go quiet and we're going to be fine, or we're probably heading into another eviction, because I'm just for all of them. Because at this point, I don't know who's causing what problem, because we've even reached out to the actual tenants about this as well, like telling them, like, look, this is the path you guys are heading on. Handle this, because you're just as equally responsible for it. And we get lackluster responses, like they don't care.
Or they're just out of their mind.
Or out of their mind.
I think they're out of their mind.
So yeah, anyway, that's pretty much what's going on 104. Massive problem. I'm getting sick and tired of it. Quick update. We have no clue what the issue is. Our suspicion is that 134, while the people were there and weren't paying us and going through the eviction, we're racking up our water bill drastically. Because the only two changes are we fixed a pipe that wasn't leaking before, and obviously the one that got run over at 104, and we evicted 134.
The only other thing,
but our water bill, like it used to spin continuously, nonstop.
Yeah.
It stops now, which means there can't be any leaks.
Yeah, it is. So you understand, when you look at the meter and you physically see a little dial on there, so you have the number that ticks, and then you have a little dial in there that tells you if water is flowing or not.
And there's an internal, so there's like the red needle, and there's an internal dial that just spins.
That has, since we've owned the park, has never stopped once. I mean, the little silver dial that just spins faster or slower depending on however much water is being used, but it has never come to a stop ever. And for the last month-ish, there is periodic stops.
We're talking 5-minute segments of nothing.
Whenever people are just not using the water, we're like, we haven't done anything. The only thing that's happened is 134 is gone, and then, like you said, we fixed the non-leaking pipe.
Now, to give you guys an idea, there was one thing we thought it was.
Well, I want to clarify one thing real quick. So the reason why we're bringing this up is because we were racking our brain around this. So we called the water company to clarify, making sure that we're not crazy and that the actual dial is stopping and that less water is being used. And they confirmed with us that we're on pace to be somewhere around a $300 to $500 water bill, plus a little extra that came off the last statement before, whatever our total amount was fixed, but the eviction happened. And so we were like, what? If you guys remember, the last two water bills was $3,500 or so, $3,600 somewhere around there, and then $2,500-ish, and now it's gonna be like $500. That's a substantial difference for just kicking out one person and fixing an already not leaking pipe.
And the thing is that at 126, the main line going to it was busted. And again, that one was our fault, 100%, because we knew about it in the winter. We didn't think it was as big of a deal because, like, we thought it was just wet or whatnot. We figured it was like a very small leak. We should have dug up the line. We should have fixed it right then and there. We didn't. That's on us. I'm willing to eat that one because that's our fault. But when we fixed that one, which was a guaranteed leak, like once I dug it up, it was spraying continuously. And once we fixed that one, we went back up to the meter. It was still running like normal. So
now, once again, it would slow down at times. So, like, obviously, it's like somebody flushes a toilet, it spins, or gets a shower, it's spinning really hard. But then when nobody's using anything, it would slow down, but it would never stop.
The red needle was constantly moving, whether fast or slow. And we're like, I don't know what to do.
And so we were like, we clearly have a leak somewhere. So that's why we were looking at getting like some tools or getting some people out there with other equipment to just figure out where all of our lines are and just find where the hell this leak is. Well, then ironically enough, the time that we try to figure out this, we got one of the parabolic tools, the little sound tools or whatever. To find
I couldn't use it for anything.
Yeah,
I could not figure out how to get it to work.
Couldn't figure out to save our life. But the craziest thing is as we're trying to figure this thing out, we're looking at the meter and it's not moving. And we're like, what the hell? This has never happened before.
Because I guarantee you that unless there was only one unit, 130, that had the tiniest drip leak from their hot water heater, and they fixed it. And the thing is that, like, I know for a fact none of the other tenants fix anything.
Well, the thing is we even confirmed with him when he last did any water.
He said he hadn't done anything plumbing in the last month and a half. Because I was like, have you done any plumbing in the last 30 days? He was like, nah, last time I did it was like a month and a half ago where I did fix that.
And that was us literally looking at the meter that day when we were playing with the little parabolic thing because we were like, nothing's happening. There's no water. Like, water's not moving somehow. How is that happening when people have water? There's always moving water. So then we were just like lost because, okay, so to remind you guys of everything, 136, massive leak out the side because they basically had a completely system of busted lines and they just had the water main on and it was just shooting. That's why we definitely had a $3,600 water bill. But on top of that, we had that leak at 126, like he mentioned, and 130 had a pinhole leak. Okay, those were the three issues. Since then, 136 has been capped off. 130, like he said, did his whatever fix he did, and we fixed 126. That was all around the exact same time. It's the beginning of May when we got a massive $3,600 bill. We freaked out, ran out there, fixed everything.
Yep.
The only and then the next bill that followed up. So the only thing that's happened since then is we didn't do anything. We did do water pressure. I mean, we did. I'll rephrase it. So we didn't do anything. We get our next bill is $2,500, whatever it is.
We are losing our minds.
So the only thing different from that bill, the $2,500 to this bill, is three specific things. We picked out 134. We did a little bit of pressure washing at the time of going from the 3,600 to 2,400. So we did some pressure washing, which is maybe $200 of water at worst. Mathematically, it should be more than like $50, but we're just assuming worst case. And then, like he said, we fixed the non-leaking pipe. But none of that mathematically, none of it adds up to $2,000 of difference between our most recent bill that we had and the projections of where the water company is saying our next bill is going to be, and my own projections, because every time we go out there, I've been taking routine pictures because we even got...
Dude, Derek and I were paranoid. We actually were like, the water company's screwing us.
Yeah, they're lying.
They're lying. So we started taking pictures of the meter every single day.
Yes.
We came out there because we were like, I don't know what else it is. Like, I guess we got to prep for court because it's not unheard of utility companies overcharging. In fact, there's plenty of lawsuits, class action lawsuits, and stuff like that happens because of that. So we're like, I guess, dude, I guess we're getting screwed. Let's start getting evidence.
Every single day, I was taking a picture and I was writing down the total difference between the previous picture, doing the math calculation based off of what county told me, plus adding the tap back in, or just calculating the difference to see how much it was in a day or two. And every one of my projections were telling me we're going to land somewhere around $350. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to see a bill. Well, obviously, like I said, whatever's left over from the, because, you know, like credit cards, you have some left over from the previous month. And so if we had a leak beforehand, it was carried over. So anyways, so we're going to be now currently projected around 350 plus or minus some extra money from the previous month. So we're probably going to be around 500. I'm like, I swear to God, if on September 1st, because today is the day they read the meter, ironically, today's the 12th. If on the 1st we get a bill from the meter being read today and it's like $500 or less, I'm going to go nuts because we literally cannot figure out where this supposed $2,000 difference happened in the previous month.
Theory.
We get the $1,100 difference between the 3,600 to the 2,400 or 500. We got that one. That made sense. That was 136, the leak at 126, and the leak at 130. Those are leaks. They got fixed. $1,100 totally makes sense for a leak. Where the hell did $2,000 get saved when we didn't do anything?
I'm personally convinced that out of pettiness, 134 was constantly, non-stop running the water for two reasons. The mold, the excessive mold in their unit. Excessive. It is so moldy in there. It's actually baffling. Like, it's hard to breathe after you've been in there for a couple of hours. That's how much mold it is. And like, they always used to complain about breathing problems or whatever else. And like, I feel like it's that, but the other reason is because some of their plumbing, which we didn't do, their sewer drainage, the sink is my favorite. So there's a T in the sink drain. Genius. The water goes in, it comes down, it goes through the regular like two tubes, and then it goes down, and there's a drain that's a T, and the T just pours straight out into the kitchen. It just pours straight out into the kitchen, and then the other portion of the drain actually goes into the sewer like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Genius. Genius
So he
plumbing.
thinks that, like,
There's a lot of wetness underneath the house where the lowest point would be. So if water was constantly running, it's so weird because him and I talked about it. It's like it should be dry. Like there should not be any water. We have had super hot days. And once they left, we needed the dirt in that area for something. The dirt was completely dry. I mean,
yeah. Now this is
either that or it was the pipe that wasn't leaking.
yeah. Now, here's the only thing I have to disagree with them on is that mathematically, I have been trying to figure this out if they physically could have been the only cause, and they couldn't have. There is no way, because remember, 136 literally had the main on, and 100% of that water was shooting out the side of the house. 100%. There is no more, there is no less. It was all of the water out the side, and that was still, in combination with two other leaks, $1,100 difference. Meaning that at most, we'll round them up somehow, they were more than that. We'll say they were $1,300. Where did the other $700 go? There's still a $2,000 difference. And I don't know, can't figure it out. So anyways, we're hoping to God the water bill is cheap, because if it is, wonderful, we finally saved our money again. If it's not, we don't know what the hell the problem is. We genuinely have no idea. We don't see any water leaks in the park. Nobody's having any water issues. We tried the little parabolic sound thing. Couldn't figure it out. We don't know what the hell.
Let me give you guys a pro tip. Any future landlords out there, I got an excellent pro tip for you. And it is 100% accurate. There is a correlation, a strong correlation between deadbeats not paying their rent and water bills skyrocketing. I don't know what or why this correlation is, but we are 4 for 4 on this. Where people didn't pay their rent and their water bill skyrocketed through the roof. And whether we're paying for the water bill or not, it's irrelevant. But just giving you guys a heads up. So if you are ever in the unfortunate situation, because Derek and I, unless it's Airbnb, I ain't providing nothing utility wise. I am so sick of this. So if
unless we can turn it off.
Yeah, if we can legally turn it off, I'll do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't care.
That's the reason we don't want to do it, because we have no control over it.
Yeah.
We're just stuck with the bill.
Which is insane, because the thing is that a water company could turn it off on you, but if you're supposed to pay the landlord for the water and then the landlord pays the water company and you don't pay for the water, the landlord's not allowed to turn it off on you, even if it's individually metered, which such a dumb law. So we want nothing to do with the water, like at all. I want nothing to do with it. In fact, him and I have been looking into potentially metering it because I'm so sick and tired of dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, strong correlation between deadbeats not paying and water bills skyrocketing, or there being leaks, or they're being turned off out of pettiness. Just some correlation. If you can't avoid it, get yourself out of that situation. Never provide all utilities included on rentals, unless they're Airbnb style of rentals. That's the only ones that you can get away with it, because the thing is, if they don't pay, you call the police, they're out of there. So yeah. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up everything, finally, that we have gone over, except one last caveat, and I'll let you decide how much in depth you want to go into it. So, as I mentioned earlier, we did get the electric on to 136 and 134. The process to accomplish this deed was quite scummy. If you remember in my last video, or in our last video, we brought up Viper Electric as the company that we hired, that we got it done, and we got it taken care of at 124. We were very upset about the fact that they didn't bury any lines or anything else like that. Little did we know, even though we got both of them approved, and it was smooth sailing, or so we thought. Anderson County and Viper Electric apparently don't know what the hell codes are, because where they put the pole that was approved by county, and by the way, there was multiple inspections done on this. There was 3 inspections done on this pole, its positioning, and everything else done to get it fully approved. The electric company comes out, looks at this, is like, no, this isn't up to code. because we can't run a power line over the mobile home to where the pole is. That's against code.
It said either you do that, you either move it, or you got to install another pole that
A conduit pole.
Not just a conduit pole, just another pole for them to run for the transformer line to route it around to the actual pole, the main where the meter is. So basically, it was going to be another $1,200 for us to put up a pole. We were like, absolutely not.
As you guys remember, I was talking about how we already kind of felt, not necessarily scammed, just absorbently extorted on pricing.
Yeah. So I'll kind of just shorten the whole story and make it fairly quick. It was a series of gross incompetence and another reason as to why Vlad and I absolutely hate county, specifically just government in general, the lack of communication between government and licensed contractors and how they're always so horrible at their job. So, long story short on this, as he mentioned, we had to get them out there for 124 and 136. For 124, they had to put in a brand new pole and a brand new box and meter, so that way it could be a whole new setup, run it into the breaker that's on the inside. That's all they had to do. Okay, they did that. It was great. Like you said, they didn't bury it, so the second time around, they did bury that. Wonderful. That one was resolved relatively quickly. Second one, 136. They just had to put up a new pole. The box and meter, fine. Everything's up to code. Later on, the electrician even verified it was up to code. That was well beyond this point, but just to add validity, it was fine. The
existing box is what he's talking
existing box, the one that was already there. Remember, the people lived there prior to us even having to do this permit process. People have been living there up until about a month and a half ago prior to this. So anyways, back to this point, they just had to put a new pole. The reason why was because specifically the meter and pole that was there originally, the way this one particular tree grew out, knocked the pole at an angle to where it was leaning towards the house. It was way too close. So they just had to pick up the pole or get a new pole because the pole was technically a square, it needed to be a circle, and they just had to move it a little bit further away to where it also wasn't leaning against the house, but it was close enough to where it still services the home. That's all they had to do. So then, whatever their infinite wisdom, against our wishes, we just told them exactly what I just said, just new pole, nothing else, in the same spot, don't do anything else. They take the pole, put a new pole in the back of the house, new meter in the back of the house. We also were very adamant with them that it must be a hard conduit pipe. Cannot be the flexible pipe. And they even went and resolved that at 124 because they tried to use a flexible pipe on that portion as well. Said no, had to be hard conduit. They said okay, did it, used our pipe, but they still did it. And then over here, they didn't do it. And the reason why we have to is because county has adamantly told us it must be hard pipe. That specific area is required to be hard pipe, and any of the other flexible pipes we've had before, they've had to always get redone as hard pipe. We've dealt with it twice already, so it has to be a hard pipe. We were very adamant about this. Well, we come out there, that pole is a new pole, that box and meter is a new box and meter, which doesn't make any sense because ours is on the ground, and the pipe they chose is a flexible pipe, and they didn't bury it. So they basically did 4 things, one of which was correct, the other 3 was not. So the placement, the box and meter, and the freaking pipe. So anyways, so then we said, screw it, it's still done, we just had to get it buried. So when we got them to rebury 124, we got them to bury 136. It did get approved. We were like, whatever, we'll just deal with it. We still feel like we're getting screwed, but it's fine. We just need to get the power on so we can move forward to the next process. That's when we get the electrician out there to go turn the power on because you got
the actual electric
company. Sorry, yeah. And so we get the electric company out there. That's when they tell us, no, not up to code. We can't work with this
because they can't run a live wire over top of the house. And the whole time, both Derek and I
thought it was so dumb.
Because I was like, I can't believe this got approved. I didn't say anything. He didn't say anything because I was just looking at him like, they're gonna have to run that line because I'm looking at where the line is, where this box is. I'm like, they're gonna have to run the line over top of the house. I'm like, man, that's gonna be so difficult to work on the roof there. That's weird, man. I'm like, county says it's approved, says it's up to code, whatever. And
so needless to say,
and by the way, this is a full licensed contractor.
Yeah, so needless to say, that didn't get approved. Well, the electric company was like, no, we're not doing it. You have to either put a new pole in for $1,200. We'll install that one since that's for us to route our power line, or you get it moved. And we're like, no, we're not paying out of pocket. Absolutely the fuck not. So we said we're going to get the the electricians that we hired to go do their job correctly and move it to the front. Oh, this is also after our third inspection. We had to pay a re-inspection fee of $50 to the county, which was complete and total BS, but whatever. So anyways, we got them to move it to the front after completely ringing them a new asshole on it. So as we're working on 134, doing some light remodeling of it, like you said, tearing out floors, doing some stuff like that, fixing some windows and everything, they're out there. They're there for like 3 hours. For whatever reason, they put up another new pole.
By the way, they didn't take down the old pole. They didn't take down the old new pole. And now that we have a third pole, that house is surrounded by power poles.
It's got so many power poles. It's nuts. There's one on the ground. There's 3 standing up. It doesn't make any sense. So anyways, there's 4 power poles out there in total. I don't know why. So anyways, so they put up another new pole. They put it down. And then I was very clear with them because they had pulled in right after I had pulled in. I talked with them to clarify exactly what we needed done to make sure we were all on the same page. We said we needed it moved from the back to the front, and we needed it to be roughly 3 to 5 feet away from the home. That was based off what county told me, and that obviously needs to be buried 18 inches deep. Great, everything's good. They said they totally understand. They'll try to work with it as best they can. So they dig a hole. They put the pole in there. They still use the same flexible pipe, which I said gotta be hard pipe. They didn't fucking do it. And then on top of that, they just straight up didn't bury the line, and then just left. And Vlad and I are there, and we're looking at.
Oh, I lost it.
We're looking at it for a second. We're like, that looks horrible. And we're, a good 30 feet away. And we're like, that doesn't look right. So we walk over there, and sure enough, there, and we have a picture. We'll put it up in here. It is just literally just going across the ground, wide ass open. So immediately, in a fit of rage, call the the electricians, ask them what the hell's going on, why they didn't get fixed. And the guy, quote unquote, literally said, county's just going to have to approve it as is. We can't dig this line. And the reason why was because there were some tree roots in the way. And I'm like, well, you don't tell county what to do. County tells you what to do. You don't fight with government unless you have like everything in a line and they're 100% in the wrong. Unfortunately, they're not in the wrong. This is literally how codes are for a reason.
Having an exposed pipe like that. Listen, as much as I despise a lot of codes and I hate government incompetence in counties, I have to agree with this. Having an exposed power line like that, even though it's covered and wrapped around, is extremely dangerous.
Imagine you have a dog
terrifying.
That's out there nibbling at it, scratching at it, you're running over it with a lawnmower, you hit it. It's a 200-volt line. It's going to make you go flying, potentially kill somebody. That is a super massive liability.
Yeah, that one, I 100% am in their camp and we'll fight on that.
This is a few times we agree with government. We're like, nah, dog, this is government required. We're doing it the way they need it because it makes the most sense. And they were like, no, we just can't do it. I was like, well, why can't you dig it? And they were like, well, there's tree roots in the way. And they were like, best we could do was we can't really use a trencher because it wouldn't really eat into that. They were like, we can try a chainsaw, but it's going to go through a lot of blades. And Vlad and I are looking at each other like, we don't give a shit. We paid you $4,000+ to do this.
If you couldn't do the damn job, tell me no. I can't do it.
Who cares if you got to spend $10 in gas, a little bit in oil, and maybe $30 in 2 chainsaw blade replacements? We're talking a $50 to $60 replacement cost. Who the hell cares when you got $4,500? I don't want to hear that as an excuse. And then their total ultimate answer was, after they had to think on it for a little bit, he had to talk with the supervisor, they were just going to come out there with a pile of dirt and literally just dump it on top of it and call it a day.
So there'd be a huge mound
which,
there.
if you know anything about dirt, when it rains, 90% of it's just going to go away.
Off, which wasn't going to solve the problem. And here's the thing, since we've already had our permits revoked once before, I'm not about to pay $4,900 to sit there and have my permits revoked when I paid a licensed professional to do it, and they're not doing it up to code. Because the short end of it is, there was an obstacle in my way, so I didn't do my job.
Pretty much.
That was the meme joke I ran with for the week.
So, skipping a few days because we went through the weekend, Monday comes, and they're supposed to be out there dumping out the dirt. Don't hear anything from him. I reach out numerous times, try to get an update. Don't hear anything from him. Call the office. They finally find out what's going on. And they said, yeah, the dirt's coming the next day. And I was like, you know what? Absolutely not. F this. You guys literally told me you're coming out on this day to do this job. You didn't follow through with it. I'm already not comfortable with it. I think it's ridiculous that you're doing this. Screw that. I'll just do it myself or get somebody else to go do it. And so sure enough, they come out here with this BS excuse of, well, this is the best solution we have to this problem. We don't have any other alternatives. And I was like, look, you guys aren't going to be able to complete this job 100%. We'll just get somebody else licensed to go do this one particular section. It's not that big of a deal. I reached out to some people. They told me it was going to be like $700. We're like, that's way cheaper than having to deal with this guy causing us a problem 5-10 years down the road. I'm not dealing with it.
5-10 years, it'd probably be an issue within the first year, because
Yeah.
if you just dump a pile of dirt, which by the way, it's already sitting up kind of like on a hillish,
Yeah, true.
so the line is having to go uphill. You pour a pile of dirt on it, it's going to all wash away within under a year.
Yeah. So reach out to so I reach out to the supervisor, said I demand, I reached out to the office, demand talk to the supervisor, talk it over with him. He didn't really know the full details of it that day. He said, give me another day, let me think on it, let me see what we can do for
He
you.
basically was getting both stories, which
Yeah.
is fair.
And I told him the whole gripe I had with the entire circumstance from day one to where we were. And just so you know, we started this whole process a little over 2 months ago to get these electric poles put up, and it takes about 2 days to get the whole job done, and it's been over 2 months. That's how far delayed we were in this electric to get this set up. So anyways, so then finally we would negotiate the next day. They wanted to give us I demanded a refund. They were going to give us a refund on just the conduit and the labor for it. And I was like, you're giving us at least another couple $100 for holding costs and issues and fees. So we wound up negotiating it out to $1,500. I was like, whatever, fine, we'll settle that. So then we go to another dude who literally was like, yeah, I can knock this out in a few hours. Won't be a problem. He's like, shouldn't even need to pull a permit for it because it was already approved for the previous permit. And since it's already licensed, and licensed and bonded, worst case scenario, if something were to get exposed down the road, I can come back and pull a new permit to fix it. He's like, but this just needs to be dug, not a problem. Comes out there with a chainsaw, 3 hours, cuts some V-tapers into the
Yeah, because we were working over at 134. This dude literally digs up all around the roots. And then I just hear, for the next hour, blade breaks, goes over, gets another blade, puts it on, and he literally, and the thing that I liked about him, he came to us, he was like, hey, please come take a look at this.
Yep.
We come out there, everything is covered.
Yep.
In fact, he went a little too far. He also covered the ground wire when he wasn't supposed to do that. Everything was covered. I had no clue. You could just see the conduit going in, and then there's an elbow, and it's gone.
And the worst part of it is that he did almost exactly everything to 18 inches. The problem is he couldn't get it the full 18 inches because the freaking electricians didn't leave enough slack from where it meets to the meter to the pole. He literally can't put it down any lower. He dug it low enough. He can't physically push it down enough. So now it's like 14 inches instead of 18. It's like 4 inches off because the electricians, in their genius ways, when they went from bringing it from the back to the front, didn't add or subtract any line. They just took the line and went from the back side through it to the front side, did this dumb conduit system in the middle of our bricks, and then just said, call it a day. So the electricians still screwed us in the end, and 100% couldn't be done, but it was enough for code to pass it, and they were like, it's fine. So, anyways, the dude knocked it out. We paid him the $700. He did it in 3 hours. 3.5 hours. Went through one chainsaw blade and literally a little bit of gas and some oil. That is it. What the hell is wrong with that? So either way,
came and got us.
Yes. And
like that's the thing that pissed me off with Viper Electric. They literally snuck off, knowing they can turn their heads and see the unit we are in working at.
Yep.
And they left.
So anyways, so we saved $800 on that, and we got the power turned on. Because the electric company did come back out there. They said, yeah, it looks great to us. Weirdly, we had to get the inspectors to re-inspect it again because it got moved again. But since it was all the same company and parts and all, they were like, yeah, it's fine. But it's normally we don't really have to re-inspect it. But I guess we just were anyways because we want to make absolutely sure. But if it's the same parts and materials and the same company, once it's been approved and it's been closed, even if you move it, we don't really have to open it back up again. So he didn't really open it, but he did just do a quick visual because he was coming out for 134 anyways. And he was like, yeah, it's generally all right. And then the electric company was like, cool. So they came out and turned on both at the same time. Then we went and tested both homes. And very luckily, we're talking, it is almost the exact same condition of both. Both of them have about 2 outlets that don't work and like maybe a singular switch and a light bulb. That's it.
Which
They're
really
90% of the house
annoys
works.
me because I don't know if we ever mentioned this. God, dude, the people that we had living at 134 are chronic through their like entire core liars and bullshitters. I remember, and he remembers too distinctly, that the guy that used to live there,
visually
and
seen
he
it.
bitched at us that the electric in 134 is foobar and there's only one running outlet in the entire house, quote unquote. And he was using this one extension cord as his argument.
And to verify, every time we'd go to the house, he'd have an extension cord running off of one outlet and like 20 items going into this extension cord because there was literally a splitter in that extension cord that added another like 5 outlets, and he had literally like 15 to 20 things running out of this outlet.
Now, let me preference this.
But this is exactly
where the couch was. That outlet behind the couch, which they never had access to anyway, was not working.
Correct.
The outlet in the living room that he was running the extension cord from was.
Yep.
And there was another outlet that was covered up for some reason with black tape I peeled off, and it worked perfectly. Then there were outlets in the kitchen. All of them worked perfectly.
So, to give you an idea,
every single thing worked perfectly fine, except for that one back outlet and a light switch.
Just look at it like this. You walk in, okay? Right in front of you is this couch. Behind it was the non-working outlet. The outlet that they said worked, that they used all their electric off of, was the one to the left on that wall. The one where you walked in, the wall to your left, right here, the front door basically, that outlet was the one that was covered up where the bed was next to it, right? So then they always sat on that couch staring this way towards the door where the TV was. To their, if you're looking at them, to their right was 2 separate outlets and a third that was a little bit further down for the fridge that all worked, that was all within arm's reach of the couch. So not only did they cover up one where the TV was, and that's where their bed was, okay? They were using all this one in the middle one. They also had access to 3 literally within arm's reach. Like, I'm talking like where Vlad's head is. If I'm on the couch, that is how far away this one outlet is. There's another one that was further forward, about here or so, and then there was another one about Vlad's head away again, a little further down for where the fridge connects to.
None of the outlets work.
And they ran
one working outlet.
And they ran like 15 things off of this one extension cord.
You know, it's funny.
Including their air conditioner.
Derek and I figured out that the guy that lived at 134 was an absolute liar within 2 months of us owning the park.
Yep.
However, we could usually kind of nitpick a couple of pieces of truth. We realized the whole family was a bunch of liars 3 months ago, being the wife and the kid.
That was
because obviously the whole issue with the 136 thing, and them trying to get us arrested and thrown in prison for breaking and entering into our own property.
Then stories weren't adding up, and there was a whole bunch of weird things that we were picking up little context clues on between like when we were out there and just seeing things and visually picking it up.
But the thought of how stupid they truly were, that they had all these working outlets that they just covered over or had shit in the way of, and made up this mental gymnastics story of, I only have one working outlet in the whole house. We tested the entire house, by the way.
They also said the stove didn't work, and the stove outlet's fine. That was the other thing too. I had to remind myself of that. They literally said I don't know if the stove itself didn't work. That's a different story. But they said that the electric did not run to the stove.
Yeah, that is true. And when we tested it, which by the way, we did not, I want to clarify this. We only got an outside inspection of the box, the area around it, and everything else like that for that unit, we actually didn't, when we pulled the permit, it passed immediately. We actually didn't have to do
They
anything.
didn't do anything because when we paid for all those decks and they were coming out and putting them in, we already had put one in at 134. And so, once again, that was the only thing we had ever needed done at 124 and 136. So we assumed we were going to need it at 134 since we would plan on doing the eviction. So like he said, the millisecond we kicked them out, called out that inspection so they could pass, no issues.
So we
nothing was
did
a
not
problem.
touch a thing internally on the electrical.
We kicked
We
them
just
out.
went in, we made sure all the breakers were on, and then Derek and I went around, little testers, stabbing everything, and that's what we got. We have one light switch, potentially two, that we know either are wired wrong
Yep.
or just aren't working at all. And we found one outlet we're not entirely sure because in their infinite wisdom, they didn't rip off the plate. They somehow ripped off the actual plug-in outlet part, but left it wired up.
Yeah, so basically what he means is like the actual
The smiley face, you know,
Yeah.
the little eyes and like the little slit.
the two outlets, I guess like the terminals in them, the little metal things that actually get
Yes,
the connection.
actually, we'll do it like this. So
Yeah.
metal part,
Yep.
and then you have this part that you actually like you put the ground into,
Yeah.
so it looks something like this.
Yep. And so the whole bottom half of one of them was off. Just broken the hell
And
off.
that wasn't the one that was covered, by the way.
And they just-
that one was just open and exposed.
They just had stuff in it. Just metal to metal contact, no protection of plastic whatsoever, no faceplate, none of that extra stuff, nothing. We're like, well, that's not dangerous as hell or anything. So
Dude.
anyways, yeah, they just completely lied horribly about the entire
They
electric
lied about the
circumstance.
permit, by the way, too. At one point, they said, remember, we brought that up in a previous video.
Well,
They had told us that they had gotten a permit, they had gotten it approved after
Yep.
they lost their electric. Bullshit. They never lost their electric. You know how I know that? Because if electric goes off, it does not matter. You must now pull the permit, get it approved, and get the electric back on. It doesn't matter if it's going back in your name. It doesn't matter if it's going back into another
Yeah.
person's name. It does not matter.
So the way that the system is right now at that park is everything had a hold on it. The moment the electric was disconnected,
Whether willingly, due to non-payment, or like due to some like weird thing where like they just decided to disconnect your
Yes.
service for
And
whatever
so-
reason.
the way that their system worked is that if you were more than a day from paying the bill, they would disconnect your service. Well, back when we were doing the renovation of 108, they explained this to us that they were falling behind on their bills and blah 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 blah, and that they had gotten their power shut off, and they had no power. But then they had supposedly, under the table, paid the inspector to pass them for a permit. None of the story really made up, and we didn't really. I never could verify. I tried numerous times getting information from the county to see if they had a permit pulled, and they just had no idea what was going on. And so they do not have a permit on that house whatsoever. We've verified numerous times. All the permits on that particular lot, does none of them exist in whatever the hell they were talking about. That's why they get a new one done. So anyways, point is that yeah, basically the way it works is the moment the power is shut off, or not just shut off, but disconnected specifically, they cannot reconnect it without a permit because everything was put on hold, saying they all needed to be repassed because they were assuming the whole park was a disaster when they shut it down. So now, once we've gotten the permits passed, obviously, if anybody's power gets shut off, they don't have to re-inspect it another time. It's already good. We've already passed the modern day era of codes. So the thing is that this wasn't one of them, and they were supposed to be going through this permit process. They lied to our face, said they did, got it approved, and they got their power back on. Their power was just never off. They just didn't pay the bill, and they just didn't turn it back on. And so they've been leaving the door wide open for their air conditioning.
We knew they were liars. Even we underestimated just how much lying they were sitting there and they were doing. And honestly, if the raw truth of it, we just needed them to pay as long as we physically could. So we could literally fund it to everything else that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, we knew we were getting rid of them at some point because they were clearly a problematic tenant, especially when we had other circumstances going on around that area because they were in the lower part of the park and they were just constantly causing headaches. But we were using their money because they were consistent for a while to fix up all the other more prioritized problems. And now that we've gotten pretty much all of them done, and now we're kind of retroactively working on the problems that we kind of ignored for a while, we finally got rid of them, and now we're just kind of doing a clean sweep of doing basically from the back to the front, all the problems are getting resolved. So now we're finally going to have the mobile home park 100% problem free.
Yeah.
We're just one problem. We're 2 potential problems away from being
between 104 and also the reported like drug manufacturing.
Unless they're the same problem, then we only have 1 problem. But
that is true. Yeah.
We're just going to assume it's 2 separate ones. We don't know, but either way, the problem is we only have 2 potential things left to deal with, and they could resolve themselves. We don't know. But the thing is that if we don't have a water bill, that's the other issue. The water bill could be the 3rd problem. But if we don't have a water bill issue, and we just have potential drug activity and 104 causing us a pain in the ass, as long as those get resolved, we start renovating or owner financing those homes, everything will be smooth sailing because now we can rule with an iron fist because the park is much more cleaned up. We have significantly more people paying attention and cleaning up their homes and actually giving a crap. And then now we'll also have better quality, higher quality tenants because as we've been fixing up the park, we've been getting better and better tenants in there instead of just people we needed to pay money. Now it's people we actually want to keep there. So anyways, long story short on that, that was the bullshit crock of spiel that 134 kept feeding to us over the course of 2.5 years.
Yeah. And it's just, dude, I wish I could remember all, like, just the hilarious lies. I'm not kidding you, there were times where he would just be spewing his shit, and I just like, all right, I'm gonna go now. I just turned around and just walked away. I didn't even want to listen to it. And apparently, and then the funniest part was that one time he called Derek and he bitched about me. He wouldn't do it to my face, but he bitched about me to Derek, like, your business partner is incredibly rude. Like, he doesn't show any, like, respect, blah, 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 blah. And this was all over the fact that I drove down to the park. I pinned notices on everybody's door for whatever it was that we needed to issue.
You either gave it to them if they were there, but if they weren't there, you pinned it on their door because it was about the increase in rent from 1.5 years ago.
Yeah, I just literally pinned in. I wanted in and out. I just went in there, I pinned it on everybody's door. If they were physically there, I talked to them and gave them the notice. Well, no, actually I didn't, because I literally pinned it to their door and took a picture of it. I had to put it on their door. So I pinned it to everybody's door, got pictures of everybody's door, and then bounced out of there. And like, I did not care. And I remember that distinctly, but regardless, whatever. It's a problem I'm finally happy to be rid of, because there's a lot of people in that park that Derek and I both tolerate. A lot less now. We have substantially cleaned it up well. But when we first got into it, there was a lot of people we tolerated just because we had to. Otherwise, there was no way we could sit there and work with the park and get it back up and running. But now we're slowly, actually, we're not even having to do it. They're slowly killing themselves off, because the thing is about deadbeats, they're always going to deadbeat.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have to do much. They'll screw it up themselves. Just wait.
That's why we've been getting significantly more reports about drug activity, significantly more reports about suspicious activity in general, other people being more aware and active of like when trash is getting taken. Like, remember, we're not out there to physically see these things. People have to tell us this. Well, because of the new tenants that we're getting out there and the people that actually care about their belongings and the neighbors and well-being and whatnot, we have a significantly more active, fostered community there that actually cares about the upkeep and upbringing of the entire environment. So now we can nip it in the bud significantly faster and earlier than we did before, because before it had to escalate out to a point where either like it became too big of a problem you couldn't ignore, or like police intervention had to come in, and then it was something that we could physically take and run with. But now we don't have to wait for, like, for example, that drug activity that we don't know of yet. We just got a report today of it. Once again, there may not be drug activity, but somebody was at least forewarning to say, hey, there could be. If there is, in fact, drug activity, normally we'd have to wait until either we just happen to catch them in a random inspection, they did enough of it that we physically were there to visually see it, or they got caught by
drug paraphernalia that we can find spilling out,
or like they got caught because the police got them in some way, or somebody caught a picture of them in something like that, but nobody ever took pictures back then because they didn't care about reporting each other. It was so hard to actually catch the act that we basically were just like, well, it's either we just assume they're doing it and go ahead and kick them out and replace them, or we just tolerate it for now and deal with more priority problems, which is exactly the route we went with. And then now we don't have any real priority problems anymore. And when we do get these forewarnings, more people are more active about getting the information. We've gotten way more pictures, way more reports. They call the police on occasion on certain things, like at least with the dogs. And so now it's significantly more active, and like I said, it's stamping out the problems way faster, which is causing us less headache, which also makes it more enjoyable experience for other people to live there and us as investors to deal with it.
Yep. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just trying to bum rush through this, trying to get through this last little couple of hoops of problems and issues, and obviously being able to fund it all, and then we can continue on from there.
So this has obviously been a long video, so I'm going to kind of shorten this up as much as I can. Not much has changed from the previous months. The only difference, obviously, is we kicked out 134, so they're definitely not paying. So with that being said, I'll just kind of shoot through this. 104 paid 500, 108 regular 1300, 116 paid the 470, 118 is not paid this month, they're behind. 120 paid their 470, 122 hasn't paid, they're behind. 124 doesn't pay. 126 paid 501, randomly paid an extra dollar. 130 paid 400. They're trying to catch up. They've been paying $200 roughly every week. They didn't pay last week, but they've been trying to catch up now. And we've already received another 200 for August, so they'll probably be a little higher than 400 next month. 136, obviously, 134, 136, and 138, nothing. 946 always pays the 460. 641 has technically been about $500 or $400 behind, plus a late fee making 500 from about February, and they actually just finally caught that up, plus made their regular payment. So they actually paid us $900 a month. And then 18 Eagles View, they paid like always 700, and for 13 Hammet, in July we technically only received the half down that we had gotten because they're paying every 2 weeks. So I just have the 500 in there. The 400 we've received for this month, because just so you know, they're paying 900 give or take. The 400 we received this month plus any subsequent payments will go towards August and on. So that we've only technically received 500 for last month. So all in all, total for what we brought in for the month, $6,201. Now, to remind you, of course, we are going to definitely be in the negative because we haven't received any new income. We have some people that are behind, like always. And then on top of that, we have new debts that are temporary debts, but they're coming in. So now they're starting to be due. And of course, we're still paying off high debts like big water bills. So with that being said, Divvy was 608. Lowe's was $900. That's one of the first times we're going to have a big bill on that. And it's going to probably be consistent for about the next 4 months or so, about that range. It'll start tapering down as we get done with stuff. Amazon was $652.67. Apple was $754. We have our lot rents, which are 2 lot rents now. We have the one for 18 Eagles View and the one for 13 Hammet. Combined, that's $500. The mortgage for the mobile home park, $1953. And then Sam's Club was the big one that we put the entire water bill on. We had to split in half payments because it was just so much money, being that initial $3,600. So we're paying off the other half of the $3,600. That's how much we are behind on the payments here. We paid $1,913, which isn't really a big deal in terms of like splitting it up in half, because we only ate about $28 in interest, which I'd rather do that than go bankrupt trying to pay for it and then paying for, like, you know, for example, if we went too much money on to just doing that, the overdraft fee for a bank is $35. I'd rather not piss off my bank and have an overdraft fee of $35 than just pay $28 in interest. So, and that was the only thing we ate interest on, so it was totally cool. So with that being said, the only other thing we did have is we did pay $160 because we need to get a new push mower for the mobile home park. And we'll say the mobile home park's grass is looking pretty good now because we finally got to get it cleaned up out there. And grand total debts on that is $7,441.30. So the overall total budget for this month, for the third consistent month in a row, negative. We are now negative $1,240.30. To wrap that up one more time, to reiterate the situation we're in: 1, we're eating a bunch of debts because of all the remodels, and 2, we haven't gotten any new income yet from said remodels. So now that we finally got like electric on, for example, at both 134 and 136, we can work on those depending on how we want to do it. Like we said, we can either own or finance them or rent them, or remodel them, rent them. Those will eventually produce. We will obviously be getting more money in from 13 Hammet now because we only got a half payment technically. We're obviously getting multiple payments assuming they pay. And then of course we have other homes where people, like I said, are currently behind. Assuming they pay or catch up, then obviously we'll be getting some more money there. So realistically speaking, if we would have gotten all of our money, we still would have actually been profitable. And then on top of that, these debts are temporary. So for example, the really high
Oh, they don't feel temporary.
anyway, it's the really high Lowe's bill, the really high Amazon bill, and of course the really high Sam's Club bill are really temporary. Specifically the Sam's Club bill, because now that we've paid off the $3,600 massive water bill, the next bill we're dealing with on top of this credit card bill is the much shorter or much smaller $2,400 bill. So we still got to work on that one. Depending on where we're at in our budget, we may just pay it all off, or we may do half payments on it. Which, if you just think of it like this, if we do it down to half payment on it, that'd be $1,200, and that's a $700 difference from the $1,900. So it's a dramatic difference. Like the $700 difference right now, if we didn't have to pay that, would have made our negative budget only $500. So it's a substantial difference just because of the water bill. And then once again, in our next video, we'll tell you what the new water bill will be, and then whenever it's due. And if that bill is incredibly low, around the $500 range, by the time we pay that, about 2 months from that video from September, that'll be a substantial savings. In fact, it'll be so low, because it's $2,000 difference, it'll be so low, it'll offset literally our entire budget for all of our remodel costs, because it's more in the difference for the Lowe's, the Amazon, and some of the other stuff we picked up on the Divvy card. So that's just how much of a difference that water bill is. Anyhow, long story short, we kind of expected this, not a big deal. Main thing we're working on now, powering through it, getting the rest of our stuff cleaned up, finally getting the rest of the incomes coming in, and then kind of working our way into the winter months. We got a little bit more remodeling we definitely have to do to get back into like a consistent rhythm. And then really it's just whenever we get the time and the care, we'll tackle that golf course house and go deal with it.
Preferably in the winter.
Preferably in the winter. But outside of that, that is our current budget. The only thing I don't have in here, and I'll clarify why, is I don't have the bill for the golf course house itself, because there is a small kind of like, we're getting a little bit of a kickback back in for it, and I didn't want to include it yet because depending on what we get back and when we get it back next month, I'm going to add that difference to the next bill and add that all into the next month's bill for September. But it was $830-ish for the mortgage there. So realistically speaking, if you want to be very accurate, since we haven't gotten paid back that kickback yet, we're about $2,000 negative. But like I said, I'll make the adjustments in the next video to make it significantly more accurate to what exactly it's going to be. Because we also have some utility bills and stuff that are getting covered from the previous tenant because we give him that extra month to stay there. He's paying those bills, things like that. So I'll let you know what the actual bill is next month. Outside of that, that's currently where we sit. So that basically wraps up the budget. Basically, as we mentioned, we're kind of running into a negative. We kind of talked about, we were planning on this. We're going to slowly work our way out. But, I mean, I see another probably month or two of definite negative, and then it'll flip back around because some of the heavier debts will get paid off. After that, though, it's kind of just coast and pay debts. Cause at that point, we have whatever we're producing is producing. Yep. Plus, it'll get freaking cold, and we're not going to be doing too much construction in the dead middle of winter. But we are going to be doing, whenever we get to it and whenever we want to do it, that remodel of the golf course house. That's going to take a lot of time, so we're not really in a rush on it. But outside of that, that really just pretty much wraps up this video. You have anything else you really want to say to this?
Nope. I'm pretty much done. My biggest thing is that, like, we got to balance these damn books, man. Again, in total, we're not in a negative. We are bringing in enough income from our personal to be able to ride through this wave of problems. However,
and we had a little bit of savings left over because we didn't blow through our entire balance for when we bought the 13 Hammet and then also the golf course house. So we had some money left in the bank still. So when we're negative monthly, that's just eating out that rest of the balance. So.
Yeah, but we got to balance this relatively quickly one way or another because remember, next month is August update.
No. Yeah, I was gonna say
and then the month after that is September. And in the September update, that's when we had to have paid all our taxes, so they didn't get auctioned.
That's correct. So we will be, and we've already kind of started that process. We're getting our kind of credit cards cleaned out for some things because we're going to be doing that transfer of either putting it on the credit card if they accept that, or just doing the balance transfer of taking money off the credit card, putting it in the account, and then having unfortunately physically go up there and pay them. Because some require you to pay in person, some require you to pay online still. And we'll deal with that when we get to it. But either way, that is coming up like he said. He's not wrong. So obviously, we're gonna have to factor that into the budget, and so when we start offsetting it with any new income, it'll get offset again with that new expense. But one thing at a time, we'll get to it as we get to it.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all I got then out of closing. Just we gotta get something else producing. I don't care what.
Yep. We'll get it knocked out. So cool. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.